Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Judge
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. How are my peeps doing? I trust everybody is doing fine. Welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard. Sorry, I am a bit late, little bit flustered today, but hey, what can I say? Life goes on and one must continue moving forward. Anyway, welcome aboard Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome aboard Patrick Magner from Houston, Texas. Welcome aboard E2247. We're going to talk a little bit about the Palestine issue as well as Michael Radnin, who has a whole lot for me to read right up front. Welcome aboard, Michael Radnin. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with some of what Michael has to say here. NBC News. Bulletproof vests, snipers, and drones. Elections officials beef up security at the polls. State and local officials around the country are taking major steps to keep poll workers and voters safe amid a hostile political environment. The once routine business of running elections in America has become much more fraught with risk. The wake of 2020 campaign, that is because of Donald Trump, of course, with poll workers facing harassment and violent threats. Maricopa County, Arizona has been a hotbed of conspiracy theories, protests, and threats for years, fueled by baseless voter fraud claims from former President Donald Trump and his allies. The county, the largest and one of the most critical battleground states on the map, will have some of the most intense security in the nation. Its tabulation center will have snipers on the roof, metal detectors, and security at every entrance. Drone surveillance overhead and security cameras and floodlights to help law enforcement monitor the area. You would think we are in the Middle East. That is what having Trump as president caused us. That is what Trump, bringing somebody that is a thug. He allows things to occur just like thugs would. It is crazy. The article goes on with multiple other districts that have gone into full security mode to protect their elections from MAGA freaks who might want to shoot up the place. This is the new America. Hashtag this is America. All right, Michael also says The Independent UK Trump launches out at John Kelly over Hitler claims, calling him a degenerate, dumb lowlife, and Jello. I am going to post the quoted lies here. John Kelly is a lowlife and a bad general whose advice in the White House is no longer sought and told him to move on. His wife once told me at Camp David, John admires you tremendously, and when he leaves the military, he will only speak well of you. I said, thank you. General John Kelly retired from the military in 2016. Just a reminder, Trump's term in office started in 2017. Do you see do you see the lies? The claim his wife said when he leaves the military, retired General John Kelly had already left the military and was serving as chief of staff. There's no way a military wife would say that. Trump is so incompetent that he can't even tell the difference between serving a general and his most important secretary. I'd call it BS on everything Trump says. Man lies like he breathes. To do actually every breath is a lie. To go after his political enemy's wife is a new low, but for Trump, there ain't no bottom. We know that not even the first time Trump has gone after a gold star family. It's a shame, people. It's a shame. All right, one more from Radin, The Guardian. The Guardian says fascist command predator cheat. What 11 former Trump staffers say about him now? From John Kelly to Mike Pence, top figures from the Trump administrations have warned of his fitness to be president. Chief of Staff retired General John Kelly said his former boss fitted into the definition of a fascist who certainly prefers the dictator approach to government. General Mark Milley has called Trump a fascist to the core and was great at irreparable harm. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper said Trump has those inclinations toward fascism. I think it's something we should be wary about. Secretary of Defense James Mattis said Trump makes a mockery of our Constitution. Vice President Mike Pence, who Trump tried to kill through his people, said anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States, and anyone who asks someone else to put them over the Constitution should never be president again. National Security Advisor John Bolton has said Trump is unfit to be president and hasn't got the brains for a dictatorship. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has called Trump pretty undisciplined, doesn't like to read, doesn't read briefing reports, and added his understanding of global events and his understanding of history was real limited. White House House aide Omaros, Omarosa Manigault Newman said, I fell for a con man who turned out to be the biggest fraud. Michael Cohen, former lawyer and fixer, said, Trump is a cheat, a liar, a fraud, a bully, a racist, a predator, and a con man. White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson said, as an American, I was disgusted of Trump's role in the mob's attempt to overturn the election. It was unpatriotic. It was un-American. We are watching the Capitol building get defaced over a lie. White House Communications Director Alisa Farah Griffin called his messaging to women creepy and infantilizing and predicted Trump is going to try to steal the election again. But I don't think he can. Not I don't think he won't be successful because his folks are not in power. So folks don't need to worry about that. All right. These are Gaza stats and do not include the occupied territory. And it goes like this. Shame on the US for layabouts, lotus eaters who are indifferent whether PDR posse or not. Up in here, the best fed, best watered, best house, richest empire of earth in history. I see the attack, E2247. That's not the way, though, my brother. It really isn't the way. It's not as easy as saying we stop sending bombs. I could give you all the ricochets that would happen if we just go ahead and go cold turkey on Israel. I can show you what would actually occur. It's not an easy game at all. And yeah, it's of our own making. It's of all our own making because we are the ones who choose to elect these folks. So we have a job to do. And the job to do isn't spiting. But anyway, we'll talk about that later, my brother. Day 385 of war equal 42,847 Gazan kill, 1,022 persons more than day 365, 100,544 wounded. That's 3,634 persons more than day 365, equal 143,000 casualties. Notice we read this because this is a death of real people, and we want folks to know that this murder goes on. But also we have to, within our political strata, we have to make sure and do it right, E2247. You know I'm on your side. We are on Palestine and good Israeli side. Carl Cox says Carl Cox is okay. No gravy on anything. Why don't you want gravy, Carl Cox? I love gravy. I love gravy. All right, let's see who else we got. Peggy Lopez is in the house. New song for Vice President Harris. Well, we'll hear it. Also, Eric Hayes says CNN panel roasts Kamala Harris for failing to set out her vision after PA Town Hall, Word Salad City. You must have been watching a different panel, and you must have been watching a different group of folks who matter for the information that she said. We can compare Kamala's policies directly to Trump's policies. Oh, what Trump policies? See, there you go. And that's the answer. All right, Peggy Lopez is in the house. Oye, ¿cómo estás, mi corazón? Peggy is in the house. Let's see what else we got here. What else we got here? Eric says in a video message, 94-year-old Auschwitz camp Holocaust survivor came in defense of Republican hopeful and said that for okay, I'm not even going to read that. That's a stooge. The fact of the matter is Donald Trump is an anti-Semite. And I can always find a black person to go ahead and say that Donald Trump is not a racist, or a Latino to say Donald Trump is not a racist, or a woman to say that Donald Trump is not a sexist, or another woman to say he's not a misogynist. That doesn't make him not a sexist, misogynist, homophobe with proclivities for quite a bit of evil. So I mean, wow, look at the video. The guy has a history. What did he say when the people came, Marty? Jews will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. Oh, there are some good people in there too. Come on now, wake up, smell the coffee. Melanie Keelan is in the house from Barcelona, Spain. How you doing, my beautiful Melanie? My beautiful Alice Melanie Keelan, and in the house as well is Alice Aaron Dreams from Summerwood. How you doing, beautiful? And we also have continuing. Michael Dunn says Eric finally catching on that Trump praised Hitler and admired German generals for the supposed loyalty, even though those generals tried to kill Hitler 3 times. I swear with these maggots, we are one election away from our nation turning into a mirror of Nazi Germany. No, I tell you, we're winning this election and it's not going to be close. Come on, guys, get with the program. This election will not be close. But before we get into the election, here in Harris County, I need to set the record straight on this bail bonds issue. So what I did, Billy Allison Irwin from Summerwood. How you doing, Billy? What I did is I went to a judge who's on who is unchallenged. In other words, she doesn't have any opponent. She's unopposed in her election. So she had a little bit more leeway to talk. She can't talk about specific cases, but she had a leeway to talk. That's the first video that we're going to play. And then I've moved that. We'll move on from there. So let's go ahead and get busy. May the chat continue. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Judge Natalia Cornelio is a proud bilingual Mexican-American district court judge with over 17 years of experience. She's a former federal public defender and former civil rights attorney who represented families Trump separated and more. As judge of the 351st District Court, she has demonstrated a commitment to ensuring that all individuals receive equal protection under the law, due process, and the opportunity to be heard. We need a whole lot more judges like that. Thank you so kindly, Judge Natalia Cornelio. Thank you for being on Politics Done Right.
Thank you for having me.
Well, look, first of all, before we get started, a lot of people don't understand our judicial system at all. So tell me where you stand in our judicial system. Tell us a little bit about civil versus criminal, federal versus state.
Okay. So the state has a court system. Federal has its own court system. It just depends on the type of situation. And then I'm in the criminal courts. The counties that have more than, I think, 1.5 million people have designated criminal and then civil courts, family courts that are all different because the population is big and there's a lot of cases that come through for just those subject areas. Smaller counties, including even Fort Bend County, they have judges will handle all different types of cases, civil, family, and criminal. But we have it divided in Harris County. And so I'm one of now 29 felony court judges that serve all of Harris County in the state of Texas. They recently added 6 additional courts because the population was growing and the court system sort of stayed in place, and we're sort of catching up with the population growth and the growth in the system and justice system that comes with that.
Now, so you handle the criminal side of all state issues, correct?
Correct. And there's separate, so the county actually handles, there's county criminal courts, they handle misdemeanors. So state district courts handle felonies. So it can be anything from a state jail felony all the way up to capital case, which would be capital murder. And the punishment ranges go from 6 months to life in prison, or even the death penalty in Texas.
Right. Now, one of the issues that's occurring right now is that the way the bond has become a humongous issue that is pretty much misrepresented by one of the political parties. What I'd like for you to do to the people, to our audience, is to explain exactly what a bond is, who is responsible for creating the laws by which these bonds are governed, and that sort of a thing.
Sure. So government 101, right? The test that some folks took, or, when they were younger, STAR test or whatever, is that there's 3 branches of government. There's the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The legislative branch makes the law. The executive branch sort of funds the government operations, and the judicial branch enforces the law. So as a judge, I took an oath to uphold the laws and the constitutions of the United States and of this state. And that is my role as a judge. In a criminal court, the process is that when somebody gets arrested, they are brought before a judge. In Harris County, we have 24-hour judges called magistrates or hearing officers. And the role of that judge is to make sure that there's sufficient cause for the charge to even be brought before a court and continue, as well as to advise a person who's been arrested and charged of their rights, potentially appoint counsel if they are eligible for court-appointed counsel because they cannot afford a lawyer, and to set a bond. Every single person is entitled to a bond under the laws of Texas and the Constitution. And so it is a judge's responsibility to set a bond in every single case. So that's just kind of background. Now, as a felony judge, right, or even misdemeanor judge or any type of criminal judge, there's so much more that we do. The bond and the advising of the rights, appointing counsel is the very beginning of the process. once a case gets formally charged, this is Benito. He's very needy.
Hi, Benito.
Once a case is formally goes from having been filed as a complaint, meaning an officer swears to the charge and a judge finds probable cause, it gets indicted by a grand jury. Some cases get indicted. Many cases that get filed get indicted. Some don't, though. And once it's indicted, as a district court judge, I have the ability to and responsibility to take the case to resolution, right? So what does that mean? You're charged with a crime. You're indicted of a felony. You have the absolute right to a jury trial. And at that trial, it's the prosecution's burden to prove the allegations that you're accused of beyond reasonable doubt to a jury. To get there, the defense under the laws of Texas is entitled to have access to all of the discovery that the prosecution has in bringing the case. So at the beginning phases of a case, a judge's role will be to sort of manage and ensuring that the discovery is ongoing and in the process of being completed. So what evidence does the state have? It's not the judge's job to know it necessarily unless it comes up, but does the defense have it? What is missing for the case to be able to be resolved either at trial or, as folks that are more familiar with the system know, a lot of cases don't go to trial, right? They get resolved either by a plea, maybe a plea bargain or a plea to the court. They might get dismissed for a variety of reasons, or they go to trial. Those really are the three kinds of options for a case. And my job is to oversee the process and make sure that at the end of the day that everybody has a right to a trial, or I can preside over a resolution if I'm needed for that. So just to give some background of some of what the judge does in court, besides setting a bond.
Now,
I know that was a lot of information.
No. That was necessary information. Now, when you get a case and before that case goes to resolution, you have to determine if the accused is going to be incarcerated or if he's going to be released. How is that determined and what governs that?
Yeah, the laws and the Constitution govern that for the most part. Like I said, every person is entitled to a bond. So the judge's job is to set a bond, and it's a monetary amount where we set bail. It's called. That's the monetary amount that a person has to pay to be released from custody, and it's considered like an insurance, right? A way to assure that the person will appear for their court appearances. In setting the bond amount, a judge has to consider a variety of factors, including the nature of the allegations, the ties of the person to the community, potentially any history of the person that's presented to the court, a variety of things, right? So like I mentioned before, there's, a big range of felonies. We have state jail felonies, which are considered the least serious class of felonies. It might be a shoplifting case for someone who has prior shoplifting convictions. So then shoplifting can become a felony. It might be possessing less than a gram of a controlled substance, right? We have a lot of folks who do have addiction and suffer from addiction or drug use problems, and they might be charged in the criminal justice system for that. And then we have the most serious crime, murder, robbery, sexual assault. And then there's different offenses in between that are handled as felonies. So the nature of that offense is always going to be considered by a judge in setting a bail. The way that happens is that we hear from the two sides. There's a prosecutor and then there's a defense lawyer representing the defendant. We hear about those factors and considerations from the lawyers, and we take into account their information that they present us with, as well as their recommendations. As a judge, I don't have any investigative authority, right? So I don't have the opportunity to look into information that's not presented to me. I can ask questions, and based on whether the persons who are, the prosecution is in charge of having the information produced to them by the investigators, they can give me answers or look into it, but I don't have any power to learn of anything that's not presented to me by lawyers. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Let me verify. First of all, the state legislature create laws, and that also governs to some extent the bond. The prosecutor has to come to you and tell you why they may want that person locked up. Again, they're the ones who have to make the case, and the defense has to make the case why they shouldn't be locked up. And you, based on just the information that's presented to you, decide what to do, correct?
Well, no, that's a great question. That's not actually how it works. So the question before a judge is not whether to give bond or
Thank
bail.
you.
It's what amount of bail should be set. And it's $1. It's going to be $1 amount, right?
Okay, so let me make sure I get this right then, because you are, by law, everybody is entitled to a bond, and there's a special case to prevent someone from getting a bond, correct?
Correct. The default is every single person gets a bond, a bail set. And the issue before the judge is what amount of money. And so that's the decision that we're going to make. There is, and as you were saying and alluding to, there is a small classes of cases in which a person could be denied bond, bail. We can use those words interchangeably. It's going to be, the difference is really the security, the surety itself, or, the process.
Right.
Some people can be prevented from being released. In order for that to happen, the government, the state, the prosecutors, they have to file a motion and request a hearing that the person is legally eligible for relief, for denial of bail, and then actually present evidence to support that motion. So it's really rare that we have a hearing with regards to a motion to deny bail. Even if somebody violates their bond, they're entitled to, and a judge decides after a hearing to revoke their bond. The person is entitled to having a new bond set unless a separate motion to deny bail is filed and litigated.
So from everything that you're telling me right now, the amount of bond or the denial of bond is incumbent on the prosecutor to make the case and not the judge to simply decide.
Correct. I have no legal authority to just deny somebody bail because I don't like the charges.
Okay. Well, the reason I want to make that clear to the audience is there are a whole lot of ads on TV right now that is given the impression to the American population, to the Houston population, the Texas population, that all these judges that are out there who have released some people on X amount of bail, of bond, are somehow derelict in their duty, as opposed to it not being a system. I mean, and tell me if I'm correct here, but every day as a judge, you and all your other fellow judges probably set bonds for hundreds of people every day. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fair. We get about each court, felony court, the data is going to change a little bit because we have these new courts, but I've been in office. This is my 4th year. In my first 3 years of office, I got 2,500 cases filed, new cases per year.
So that means there's a potential that you have to give 2,500 bonds and determine the cost of each of those bonds from simply a statistical viewpoint. For anybody who understands math, there are certain people who are going to go out there and do something. So unless you have a state law that says everybody must be locked up until adjudication, somebody is going to commit some sort of a crime, likely. Am I correct in that or not?
Unfortunately, that's probably correct. Yes.
Judge, here's the thing that I'm trying to get to our audience, because I think it's important to believe that changing judges or somehow changing otherwise very good judges is otherwise going to change the results, the statistical result that as a judge, you must give bail. And no matter what, some percentage of people are going to commit crimes while out on bail. It makes absolutely no sense, and it's completely disingenuous, wouldn't you say? And I know you have to be careful in the way you speak as a sitting judge.
I appreciate that. No, I think that it's accurate to say every judge has the obligations that I just described. It doesn't matter what party we are, Democrat, Republican. It doesn't matter. And the vast majority of people are successful. My dogs are playing. I'm sorry. The vast majority of people who are given a bond and released on bail, they have no issues. They appear in court. They do not get accused of a new law violation. And that's why the system is the way that it is. Additionally, everybody who's accused of a crime is presumed innocent under the law. And so that has to be taken into account as well. And it's why the law of bail and bond is the way that it is. It's presumption of innocence. And so if you're presumed innocent, the default is that you be free until you or unless you are convicted of a crime. The vast majority of people are successful, and it doesn't matter who the judge is. If we are following the law, we must set bail unless a motion and hearing is presented that is sufficient to overcome that right to bail.
And unfortunately, a judge that is handling a case where one of the people they've released on bail does something wrong, that judge can't come on TV and say, well, the reason, I had to follow the law. They just have to sit down and listen to whatever the politicos or the others say on TV. So what I'm trying to do is make it clear to the audience. These judges have to follow the law. That's what they're doing. They're there to interpret the law, to execute the law. That's what they do. Now, it's interesting because as you were talking about, you have to determine how much bond. It just occurred to me that, my God, if you are a very wealthy, rich person that have a proclivity to murder, and you are a poor person that accidentally murdered somebody, it seemed like no matter what the price is for that rich person, they get a chance for you to let them out, even if you set the bond to $10 million.
It's a question, a policy question that has been looming. It was a part of the bail reform, the bond reform that happened in misdemeanor courts, where a federal court had found that pay to get out system in misdemeanor cases was a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, the way that it was happening. And so certainly there's, for example, I've practiced a lot in federal court before becoming a judge. In federal court, there's not generally an amount of money that you pay to get out. The laws provide either for release or detention. And it's just a different structure. It's a different law. There have been motions in Texas to try to change the law to that, but the law is and has been for a really long time the law of bail, where an amount of bail is set to determine what security can be provided to ensure that you will appear in court. And it's been that way for hundreds of years in Texas.
So, folks, those ads that you're seeing on TV right now are completely disingenuous. They're just there's an attempt to simply oust all the Democratic judges, and because we're in the Harris County area, mostly female judges of color that they're trying to oust. That is what it's all about, and they're using people of color who have had bad experiences with people on bail to try to make the case and hoodwink people of color. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, and this is aside from Judge Cornelio here, but I think it's apropos. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we have to stop being gullible to the political process and instead listen to an educated process as illustrated by Judge Natalia Cornelio here. Judge, so what would you suggest, given the limitations that many judges have in what they can say when they have an active case going that is problematic? How can we handle that on the outside?
It's tricky because it really is, when we were talking about the scale of the system, right? There is, 50,000 pending felonies at any given time. There's now 29 courts. And so it's easy enough for me to say we're open courts. Some courts live stream, some courts are available to access via Zoom and can be viewed. And so the public can become involved in understanding a little bit better the process, what kind of information is given to a judge in real time when they're setting bail. We do have those 24-hour hearing courts that set a lot of bails too. They're judges as well. And so, it's not all done directly by the sitting elected judges. But but we do also set bail in several cases. But anybody can watch and see how it works. I know it's a big ask because everybody has a lot to do, and it doesn't necessarily make time or can't necessarily make time to watch a court proceeding. But if you ever want to, we're available. There's a website, justex.net, that has a link to all of the felony courts in Harris County. And then the county courts at law also have a separate website. So if you just Google Harris County Criminal District Courts or Harris County Courts at Law, you can find the links to be able to either zoom in to or view the live stream of different judges and see how the process works in real time, and then realize that happens every day. Every day of the week, every week of the year, in perpetuity in every court.
Yeah.
But I think that would be really helpful to folks, because you see what kind of information a judge is actually receiving when they're making their decisions. We have nothing to hide. We're transparent about it, and help understand it.
I think, folks, I tell you, Judge, before I close here, why don't you give me a closing statement? Because I want to make a short soliloquy after you're done.
Well, thank you. Well, I just want to brag on the work that the criminal courts in Harris County have done. I know since I've taken office and before that, we really have. I mean, I'm proud of how representative the judges are of the community. It's diverse, more women in the judiciary and in positions of leadership than ever before, than in other places in the country or state or even federal government. We are represented, and we're really proud of that. We work really hard, and we've done some incredible cultural changes to our criminal court system, where we have been committed to making sure that the quality of counsel that's available for people who cannot afford a lawyer continues to improve, so that someone is not being harmed just by not having money to be able to pay for a lawyer. That's part of a judge's job outside of the court. We have shifted the culture in the sense that I think the way that people are treated by the judges on both sides, on all sides, has changed. And there's a kindness and a compassion that's available. The judges used to send people to jail or revoke bail for being a couple of minutes late to court on a regular basis. I understand the need to maintain order in the courtroom, but I also understand the devastating consequences of someone being put in jail for being late. Sometimes people are late because they couldn't get a ride, because the line was long downstairs, because it's impossible to find parking downtown. And so we've really shifted the culture to take into account the different circumstances of our society, of the lives of the people who come through the justice system on both sides. And I'm so proud of the work we've done. We worked through COVID, where we had a huge amount. I came into the 351st District Court, there were 3,000 cases. And many of the people on that docket had not seen a judge since before March of 2020. I started in January 1st, 2021. I'm now at 800 cases. We worked at 120% clearance rate to make sure that cases get resolved, because at the end of the day, the bond and the pretrial justice, it's not the goal. The goal is the person guilty or not, and what's a fair outcome, right? And that the end part is where the system is the most important, where we know the result, because people do get acquitted of crimes that they're charged with. People have charges against them dismissed because there's not evidence of their guilt, or there was never even any probable cause to charge them. And then people do get convicted and sent to prison, and that's the right outcome in some cases after the day in court has happened. And so the judges have been really committed to making sure the cases get resolved, rather than be in this waiting period before we know whether the person even did what they're accused of or not. So I'm really proud of our work. I haven't gotten to see the ads that you talked about. I try to, I have heard about them, and I understand what's happening, and that the judges are sort of trying to be blamed for crime. As I said, we really are following the law. And I would also say that the majority of the judges on the ballot don't have anything to do with bail or bond. They're appellate judges who never set bail or bond and rarely review those decisions, or civil judges who preside over personal injury cases, contract disputes, and issues that have nothing to do with the criminal justice system. And so hopefully folks have an opportunity to do some research into who's on their ballot and learn about them and what we're doing before casting a vote.
Well, Judge, I thought I was going to have a soliloquy, but you said much of what I was going to say. But one of the most important parts that you mentioned is the judges are there and they follow the law. And number two, do not be hoodwinked by the ads that you see on TV about these judges. The fact of the matter is that most of the judges on your ballot do not give bail because that's not their job. Now, Judge Natalia Cornelio and others, they have that responsibility, but few of them that you have on your ballot actually do that. Judge Natalia Cornelio, thank you so kindly. Muchísimas gracias for giving us the opportunity to speak to you on Politics Done Right.
Always a pleasure to speak with you, Egberto. Thank you for caring about getting information out to the community.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. But that was important not only for here in Harris County, but it's similar throughout the entire country. There are two newspapers that are not going to endorse. The first one, of course, is the LA Times. They came out, they made an endorsement for Kamala Harris. When the owner of the paper saw the endorsement after looking at all the features of Kamala Harris, they told the editorial board, you will not be endorsing. So the editor quit the paper. Senior editor, she quit. Says, I'm not going to allow this to occur. We always do this. Now the Washington Post comes out and they're not going to make an endorsement. You would think if they wanted to make an endorsement for Trump, that would be no problem because Trump would be happy. But they won't. And you know why they won't? Because they know that if by chance, that small chance that Trump's get elected, he's coming after his list of people who went up against him. That's what fascism looks like, folks. And Tom, I am glad you printed that out, Tom C. Let me find what you printed out, which was very important. Let's see. Tom got it right. He says, Eric, fascism is a far-right authoritarian and ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcibly oppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy, subordination of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or race, and strong regimentation. And that's exactly what it is. That's exactly who Donald Trump is. No questions asked. That is who he is. Okay, I have another video here. This one is from Jake Tapper. I don't think I showed you guys this one yet. I think you're going to like it. Somebody did a great job. Brother Tapper. I am not always in favor of what he does or how he reports, but here I was 100% happy in the way he handled the latest conspiracy theory on the debate that occurred when Kamala Harris slaughtered Donald Trump. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
See a whistleblower, so it happened, it's disgraceful, it should be a national scandal, but it's one of those things where I'd like to see a little bit more information come in before I actually develop an opinion.
What is the ABC whistleblower that Senator J.D. Vance is weighing in on there? Allow me to tell you. 2 days after the ABC News presidential debate, an anonymous X or Twitter account called Black Insurrectionist leveled an outrageous and unsubstantiated claim that seemed insane on its face, that an ABC News whistleblower that somehow this anonymous account knew about was claiming that ABC News gave the Harris campaign sample debate questions in advance and had assured Harris that only Donald Trump, not Harris, would be fact-checked. Crazy. Despite the total lack of any verifiable evidence from this random anonymous Twitter account making this claim, the Post racked up millions of views on X. And then it got even worse. Elon Musk spread the claim to his 200 million followers. Donald Trump shared it on his social media. And then in a speech a few days later, he said this.
I hear she got the questions.
It's not a real person. Senator Ted Cruz, who should know better, given the vile internet rumors Trump pushed about him in 2016, Senator Ted Cruz tweeted about this nonsense. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took it a step further, writing, quote, "The ABC whistleblower who claimed Kamala Harris was given debate questions ahead of the debate has died in a car crash, according to news reports," unquote. Nearly 5 million views. She later acknowledged that the story about the mysterious death of the whistleblower was false, but she continued to demand an investigation. Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Muser, a Republican, agreed.
We're going to do what we can to bring ABC in and have them answer some questions.
There is no whistleblower. This is all based on a random anonymous claim on the internet, never backed up by any verifiable evidence. ABC News, of course, has denied it all, saying that they followed their own debate rules, which prohibited the sharing of topics or questions with any candidates. This isn't just a coincidence. A few random folks mistakenly, credulously repeating misinformation. This is now a feature of this movement. These are among the leaders of the effort to discredit news media and science and medicine and any expertise. The trajectory is road at this point. A shit poster invents a lie, puts it on social media, and soon the possible next president of the United States is spreading it to millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of people.
Did you see where she did a town hall yesterday and she used a teleprompter?
She didn't use a teleprompter for a town hall. The moderator of the Univision town hall had a teleprompter, not Kamala Harris. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene just went on Alex Jones, who has spread those horrific lies about school shootings not being real. She went on that show to spread wild stories about voting in this current election just a few days ago.
So when this voter printed their ballot and they looked, it had changed. Extremely concerning. It sounds similar to what we heard in 2020.
Something's extremely concerning, but it's not the story there. Trump booster Elon Musk has been peddling something similar about voting.
The Dominion voting machines. It is weird that I think they're used in Philadelphia and in Maricopa County, but not in a lot of other places.
They're not used in Philadelphia. And in point of fact, a hand count in Maricopa County, Arizona, after the 2020 election found 0 variances between the hand count and the Dominion tabulation. 0. There are questions that Musk is referring to because election liars keep pushing them. And we know where lies about elections can lead to destruction and death in one of the darkest days in American democracy. Jonathan Swift once said, "Falsehood flies and the truth comes limping after it." He said that in the year 1710. He did not know how much worse it would get. With social media and AI and wildly irresponsible leaders with huge platforms. God, what would Jonathan Swift think today?
But you see, you have to have a gullible group willing to accept the conspiracies. Notice in America today, you see a lot of folks that don't accept the conspiracy, both folks that are progressive and folks that are conservatives that don't buy into the crap. They are of good minds. Look at Liz Cheney. And to think that I'm using Liz Cheney, somebody that we consider ultra conservative who share none of our values. But the one thing she shares is she lives on Earth One. She lives in reality. She doesn't live in fantasy. We disagree completely on policy, but she lives in reality. But there are these groups of people that they want to believe. And, I gave a little a piece on KPFT where I used Brother our Patrick Magner's piece that he did about what the people feel in his employment. I used that to tell a story this morning on KPFT. I'll probably play it tomorrow. He called into our show here a couple of days ago, and I used his framing to build a story about why the gullibility of some people, the reason they do that. Why is it that they allow their minds to be infiltrated by these folks? Like we have a few here in our chat that allows it. But look, calling Liz a Democrat. Think about this. How ill-informed or willfully ignorant. And sorry, I know Tom C doesn't like me to say this, but in this case, it is willful ignorance. You have a Liz Cheney that has always voted with conservatives, 90-something%, if not near 100%. All her votes are conservative. All her values are conservative. Don't agree with us. But the one thing we agree with is truth. The one thing we agree with is democracy. The one thing we agree with is that you want to ensure that you don't lie to the American people. Okay? And for that, we have somebody like Eric just saying Liz is a Democrat. Come on, you have to think more nuanced than that. You have to think more intelligently than that. Anybody with her record shouldn't even be placed in the same thing. She came along and she said, I care more about democracy than I care about party. And because Donald Trump is a fascist, as Mike Milley has pointed out, that is what I must do.
We spend a lot of time.
Absolutely. So that is what I must do. All right. We have a new limerick from the one and only, our poet laureate, El Señor Tom Zornick. And it goes like this. At campaign rallies, Trump's speeches are impulsive and whiny. He talks about the strangest things, repulsive and slimy. But from serious questions, he tries to hide and cower, instead praising Arnold Palmer's bigly driver in the shower. Was this just locker room talk designed to cause a media shock? Or is it because Trump's personal putter is so repulsive and tiny? Oh, wow. That was a good one, Tom. That was a good one. You notice nobody in here talks about Donald Trump going off on tangents about males' endowments. You notice that? The guy is a nutcase. And these guys want to make him other than a nutcase. Tom says, whether willful or not, ignorance is based on mis and disinformation. I agree. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Anyway, folks, I'm going to be taking off early today. I got to go get some of my injections. What do you call those? My, what do you call them? Inoculations. Well, what do we call vaccines? That's what it is. Got to go get my COVID vaccine and my flu vaccine. So I've got to take off a bit early today. So before taking off, want to ask all of you who have the wherewithal to please consider becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. And how do you do that? To become a paid subscriber of our newsletter, there's only one thing you need to do, and that is go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I just put it in the chat. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber. That will help us continue doing what we need to do immensely. All of you have a wonderful weekend. Remember to go out there and vote early. Please do it. It's essential. Anyway, folks, have a wonderful rest of your day. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.